Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. No matter what time of night or day, I'm still just as happy as to stop by the channel. So many thanks to everyone. A special thank you to all you first-time visitors who've discovered the Social Gospel Worship and Learning Center based in Atlanta, Georgia. We are an online, faith-based community of like-minded believers, of Christ followers, and of Jesus worshipers. That's what this is about. Then I take modern events, juxtapose them with the Bible, with certain scriptures, and tie them all together. As you will soon see with this message, this is the Sunday morning message for today. As winter arrived early for U.S. workers, it sounds like a message you hear in church. Sounds political. And in a way it is. But this is considered to be just as much spiritual as it is political. The word of the Lord. Let me start with the Bible here. For the worker is worth his wages or her wages. In today's vernacular. That's Luke chapter 10 and verse 7. Yeah. That was Chloe. She's probably going to be making an appearance here shortly. Next Bible quote. Deuteronomy chapter 25 and verse 4. Do not muzzle an ox when it is treading out the grain. Told you she'd be back. She does this on most of the videos. So there's really no way to stop this from happening. So I just keep rolling anyway. I hope you don't mind. She's my biggest fan. This is my little companion animal, they're called. I suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. Rather not discuss that, but suffice it to say that she is my very little thing that calms me down. It's the best way I can think of to describe her. This is Chloe. All you first-time visitors. Now, back to the message. Yes, winter arrived early, very early, since we're in the middle of July, for U.S. workers. Oh, and there's one more Bible verse. This one is from James chapter 5 and verse 4. Look, the wages that you failed to pay the workmen who mowed your fields are crying out against you. The cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord Almighty. Close quote. Sounds similar to the situation we've got today, doesn't it? So you see, workers getting cheated by their employers. It's not something new. This has been going on for centuries. Now, let me give you a brief quote from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. And I quote, This is with regards to the U.S. unemployment rate for the last year or so. The U.S. unemployment rate edged down to 4.1% in June 2025 from 4.2 in May, defying market expectations of a rise to 4.3. The rate has held within a narrow 4 to 4.2% band, since May of 2024, signaling broad labor market stability. The number of unemployed, it goes on, dropped by 222,000 to 7.015 million, while employment rose modestly by 93,000 to 163.366 million. However, the overall labor force shrank by 130,000 to 170,380 million people. The labor force participation rate slipped by 0.1 percentage point to 62.3%, its lowest since December of 2022, and the employment population ratio held steady at 59.7%, the weakest reading since January of 2022. Meanwhile, the broader U6 unemployment rate, which includes, I think I was supposed to have been the broader U.S. unemployment rate. There's a typo right there. Which includes discouraged workers and those employed part-time for economic reasons, fell slightly to 7.7% from 7.8% in May. Close quote. Now, the truth of the matter. This latest data coming from the USPLS is simply stunning, primarily for its untruthfulness. Really now, 4.1%. This is what those inside the Beltway of Washington, D.C. expect us to believe. But this figure is only for those working full-time 40-hour weeks or 40-hour week jobs. What is being swept under the rug is the huge drop in wages that has been gradually ongoing for decades. Moreover, those who are working multiple part-time jobs are not being counted at all. America's unemployment rate may well be officially at 4.1%, but the quality and pay rate for those jobs are abysmal. They're in the cellar. We've been sucked into a whirlpool of debt slavery, everybody. That's the truth of the matter. In point of fact, due to the minimum wage here in Georgia where I live being a paltry $7.25 an hour, many of those who are working still rely on public assistance, mostly for groceries, rental assistance, and utilities. The minimum wage in over half the country is still stuck at this level. In a country that bills itself as the world's richest, a minimum wage of only $7.25 an hour is a crime against humanity. That's right, the $7.25 an hour minimum wage is a criminal act. There are even those who work but are also homeless, for God's sake. They're living in shelters or with relatives, even sharing living quarters with strangers. Such is the state of affairs for the average American worker here in the early 21st century. We have all been sucked into a whirlpool of debt slavery. Debt slavery. How my own career involuntarily ended. I was among the least fortunate. After being forced out of IT after the dot-com crash in 2001, I changed careers, putting myself in my small pickup truck to work as a contract delivery driver for a local courier company. I did just fine for 4 years, and I stayed busy the majority of the time. But then I suffered a stroke in March of 2006, 4 months after my 50th birthday. Although I did eventually recover from my stroke, actually that's a process in my case is still ongoing. After a 4-month period of intense searching during the summer of 2006, I managed to re-enter the technology field that I was trained in that I had left 4 years previously. By 2012, however, my rekindled IT career came to a halt due to back pain that I had been grappling with for many years. Since I have 2 slip discs in my spine, I retired for good 2 years after that. It was during that 2-year period that I waited for my application for disability to be approved. That was something else. Recognizing what is in our own best interests. I've been on medical retirement now since 2012, as I said. I credit my faith in Christ's healing power for pulling me through. I take it one day at a time. The first step in any recovery from any health crisis, whether physical, mental, or spiritual, is to be honest enough with ourselves to admit to the existence of the problem. Only then can one recognize that it is advantageous to find ways of dealing with one's illness, not only for oneself, but for all we know or come into contact with, but most of all, in our relationship with Jesus Christ. The job market's sad state of affairs. My original plan, once I was released from the hospital, was to get well enough to return to the workforce. But after being out of the job market for nearly 2 years, all attempts at obtaining employment in my field, either as a contractor or as an employee, proved fruitless. So I looked into retraining for a new career as a long-haul truck driver, only to be told that I didn't qualify for financial aid because I had a poor credit rating due to my unpaid medical bills. I can explain that. I had no insurance when my stroke occurred. And I had a $35,000 hospital bill dropped in my lap. While all this was happening, the bottom fell out as far as wages were concerned within the IT industry, an industry that I spent a total of 21 years in combined. Technicians and support personnel like myself, who formerly made between $20 to $35 an hour, are now being paid between $10 and $12 per hour for essentially the same work. And that's assuming they're lucky enough to have a job. Financially speaking, as I said, it is a profoundly sad state of affairs. We are being kicked to the curb by corporate America, people. That's what's happening. But the Bible says, do not muzzle an ox, or in 21st century vernacular, do not hinder an employee from advancing in their career. But that is only half the story for the multitudes of others who suffer various ailments that are being brought on by living under extreme stress, such as we do today. The rest of the story, for nearly all who are managing a physical or mental illness diagnosis, and especially those who are suffering while not yet diagnosed, can be summed up in two words: economic devastation. I'm economically devastated myself. It's not a very good way to live, but I get by. Still, I hate depending on Social Security for my subsistence because I do not trust the government. Any country that spends more money on wars overseas than it does looking after its citizens here at home is a government approaching spiritual death. I wanted to return to work, but I was prevented from doing so, partly because I can't afford to own a car anymore. That, and because companies won't hire older workers, because we won't work for the $12 an hour. We know economic slavery when we see it. $12 an hour. I'm not falling for that. No. In effect, the system has kicked me to the curb, unjustly. In my case, is only one of millions. Only one of millions, people. That's the truth of the matter. Once again, presenting the social gospel 21st century version. You remember the title of the Social Gospel Words of the Learning Center? Okay, now I'm going to tell you what it means. In America, if America had a system in place for retraining American workers who can't afford a student loan or who can't qualify for one, I and the millions of others like me would have a way to train for new vocations and professions without having to pass a credit check. If I had a way to do this, I could have gone back to work as a long-haul trucker and become a taxpayer again. Instead, I subsist on my tiny little Social Security check, living off the taxpayers when I would rather be contributing. Tough luck for me, I guess. But even though I'm in my 60s now, it shouldn't have to be this way for formerly hard-working American taxpayers like myself who can still be productive. So now you know why I continue to work from home without pay, for the most part. Blogging and writing nonfiction books, faith-based nonfiction, by the way, in case you're wondering, about my passion for social justice and equality, as well as for my faith in presenting the social gospel, a Christian faith movement of long standing that dates all the way back to the 1880s. All this makes me wonder, how much longer will we put up with this? I have concluded, as have many others, that the entire American educational and economic systems are rigged. I can't go back to work even though I'm still healthy enough to do so, and would like to. I can't go back to school due to an artificially constructed financial barrier known as a credit score. Here I am. Even though I'm certain that I could be successful in learning a new trade, even at my age, that does not matter because I can't pay the price of admission. The for-profit health care system that we are currently stuck with is the same way. Healthcare and higher education in the early 21st century, and here in the U.S. at least, are fundamental basic human rights. The right to good health, and the right of access to knowledge, meaning having an internet connection is also a human right. Oh, yes, it is. I'm almost done. Healthcare and higher education in the early 21st century U.S. are easily available for those who can afford it, while being intentionally put out of reach for those who cannot. And that, people, is a recipe for revolution any day of the year. And that concludes our Sunday message. Normally at the end of the service, in a brick and mortar church, they pass around a collection plate or basket, or whatever they have. Some churches leave a box with a slit in it by the altar, and people can just walk up there and put in an offering anytime they want. But since I'm online, I don't have that luxury. And I don't ask people to send me 10% of their income either. I don't teach it like that. Anyway, you can help support this ministry by visiting our online store, which can be found at socialgospelstore.com. That's socialgospelstore.com, spelled just like it sounds, all lowercase. If you'd like to make a donation, you can do that by visiting our website. You go to bit.ly, as in bit.ly/Social Gospel Online Church. That's it. That's all there is to it. Social Gospel Online Church or Social Gospel Store. You can also help support us by becoming a member. To do that, visit our blog on Substack. The blog and the videos too now. That address is going to be pbern, as in pbern.substack, substack.com. pbern.substack.com. You join from that page right there. You'll see the white button. Membership is only $5 a month or $50 a year, which works out to 16 cents a day. Enough said. Other than that, I want to thank each and every one of you for the privilege of your time and for sticking with me through the end. You are all very much appreciated. You appreciate it even if you didn't stick to the end. It's okay. I want to thank each and every one of you for the privilege of your time. You're all very much appreciated. Having said everything that I can think of to say, at least for this time around, everybody be blessed. That's right. I said, be blessed in Jesus' mighty name.